My name is Lisa Brennan. I am 34 years old. I am a registered nurse. At exactly 5:36 in the morning on March 11, 2024, my doorbell camera captured my parents dumping my 78-year-old grandmother on my front porch like she was a piece of unwanted furniture. The temperature was 38 degrees. She was wearing a nightgown and a thin cardigan. They left 2 suitcases beside her. They did not ring the bell. They drove away in less than 90 seconds. At 5:52 a.m., my mother sent me a text. "Grandma is at your place. Jeffrey needs his space. We know you will understand." What they did not know was that I keep records of everything. They did not know that as a nurse I am legally required to report elder abuse. And they definitely did not know that I had already been quietly documenting their treatment of her for the previous 4 months. What my parents thought was a simple solution to their golden boy son and his startup stress became the biggest mistake of their lives. Let me take you back to the beginning and show you exactly how a family obsessed with looking perfect destroyed itself with its own cruelty. It began the morning after they dumped her. 6 hours and 36 minutes after they drove away, my husband Connor was shaking my shoulder. His voice was tight with panic. "Lisa, wake up. Your phone has been going off non-stop." Still half asleep, I reached for my phone and saw 14 missed calls from an unknown number. Then I noticed the ring notification. Motion detected. 5:36 a.m. Connor had already opened the app. We watched the footage together. A silver Honda CR-V pulled into our driveway. My parents' car. My father Gerald got out first. He opened the passenger door and helped my grandmother Eleanor out of the car. She moved slowly. She was unsteady on her feet. He placed 2 suitcases on the porch. One floral. One brown. Grandma stood there holding her purse and looking confused. Then he got back into the car. My mother Diane never even turned around in the driver's seat. From arrival to departure the entire thing lasted 1 minute and 28 seconds. Connor stared at the screen. "Lisa, is that your grandmother standing outside in 38-degree weather?" I was already moving. I threw off the blankets. Pulled on my robe. Ran downstairs. It was 6:12 a.m. when I opened the front door. Grandma was sitting on the porch step. She was shivering. She was still in her thin nightgown and cardigan. When she looked up at me, her eyes were trying very hard not to cry. "I am sorry to be a bother, sweetheart." That was the moment I knew this was not a misunderstanding. This was abandonment. And even worse, she had been conditioned to apologize for it. Connor came up behind me with a blanket. We brought her inside. I switched into nurse mode instantly because that is what you do when someone you love is in crisis. You compartmentalize. You assess. You act. I checked her vital signs first. Blood pressure 156/92. High but not immediately critical. Pulse 88. Slightly elevated. Temperature 96.1 degrees Fahrenheit. Mild hypothermia. Not severe yet, but enough to prove she had been outside in the cold long enough for her core temperature to drop. I checked her hands. Her Parkinson's tremor was worse than I remembered from Thanksgiving 8 weeks earlier. I asked her orientation questions. She knew who I was. She knew she was in my house. But when I asked what day it was, she hesitated. "Is it Sunday?" It was Monday. While Connor made tea, I opened the suitcases. Everything had been thrown in carelessly. Clothes were stuffed in without folding. At the bottom of the floral suitcase, I found her medications sealed inside a plastic bag. They were not in proper prescription bottles. They were loose pills with handwritten labels in my mother's handwriting. The labels were wrong. I am a registered nurse. I know medications. Grandma's metformin for diabetes should have been 500 milligrams twice a day. The pills in the bag were labeled 250 milligrams. Half the dose she needed. Then I found a folded sheet of paper at the bottom of the suitcase. It was a list in my mother's handwriting. Things Eleanor costs us monthly. Medications $120. Food estimate $200. Utilities her share $180. Inconvenience priceless. At the bottom my mother had written a total. $1,450. She had calculated the cost of caring for her own mother-in-law, as if she were a line item in a household budget. Connor looked at my face. "What is it?" I handed him the paper. His jaw tightened. "I am driving over there right now." "No." My voice stayed calm. "We document first. Then we act." I went straight to my laptop. I saved the doorbell footage to 3 separate cloud backups. I emailed a copy to myself with the time stamp. 6:45 a.m. March 11, 2024. I screenshot my mother's text. I opened a new notebook and wrote the title. Medical Assessment Log. Eleanor Brennan. Connor photographed everything. The suitcases. The medication bags. Grandma wrapped in our blanket, and still shivering even though our house was 71 degrees. Then my phone buzzed. Mom calling. I let it ring. A voicemail notification appeared. I did not listen to it yet. I was too busy building a timeline, because in 7 years of hospital work, I had learned one thing very clearly. Documentation is everything. It is the difference between he said she said, and this is exactly what happened. And what had happened was simple. My parents had just handed me everything I would need to destroy them. To understand what came next you need to understand my family. From the outside we looked perfect. Gerald and Diane Brennan. Married for 36 years. Dad had worked as a foreman at a manufacturing plant until he retired the year before. Mom was a secretary at our church. First Community Bible. One of those places where everyone knows everyone and appearances matter more than truth. They raised 2 children. Me and my younger brother Jeffrey. Jeffrey is 5 years younger than I am. From the day he was born he was the star. Brilliant. Gifted. Destined for greatness. When I graduated nursing school at 23 and got my RN license my parents said that is nice honey. When Jeffrey dropped out of college in his junior year to start a tech company, they threw him a party and gave him $15,000 in seed money. That company failed in 8 months. Then he started another. That failed too. Then a third. Each time my parents bailed him out. He is a visionary, Lisa, my mother told me one Christmas 3 years earlier. You just work for someone else. There is a difference. The difference was that I paid my own bills and he did not. Jeffrey was 29 years old and had never kept a job for more than 6 months. But he had confidence. He had charisma. And he had parents who believed his potential mattered more than reality. That brings me to Grandma. Eleanor Brennan moved in with my parents 6 years earlier, after my grandfather died. She had money from his life insurance and the sale of their house. Around $120,000. Not a fortune, but enough to live comfortably in her final years. She was 72 then. Healthy. Independent. Still sharp. She moved in because my parents offered, and because she wanted to be close to family. For the first few years everything seemed fine. Then things began to change. At Thanksgiving in 2023, 4 months before they dumped her on my porch, I went to my parents' house for dinner. Grandma looked thinner. Her clothes hung loose. As a nurse, I notice things like that. Weight loss in an elderly patient is a red flag. I asked if I could check her medications. My mother got defensive immediately. We handle it just fine, Lisa. You do not need to come in here acting like we are incompetent. But I saw Grandma's room. It was next to Jeffrey's home office. The walls were thin. I could hear him on a call trying to sound like a big shot. Loud. Aggressive. Overconfident. Every time his voice rose, Grandma flinched. I pulled her aside in the kitchen. Are you okay here, Grandma? Her eyes started to fill. Before she could answer, Mom stepped in. Lisa, stop interrogating her. She is fine. But her hands were shaking. And it was not just the Parkinson's. A month later at Christmas, I helped Grandma set up online banking on her phone. Now you can check your accounts anytime, I told her. I thought I was helping her stay independent. 2 weeks into January, she called me sounding confused. Sweetheart, there is money leaving my account that I do not remember approving. Can you look? She sent screenshots. 6 transfers over 6 months. Each one for $1,200. All sent to J. Brennan. Jeffrey. Grandma, did you agree to give Jeffrey money? There was a long pause. I might have. Your father handles my finances now. He said Jeffrey needed help with his business. I do not remember signing anything. I asked Dad to show me the power of attorney. I wanted to know exactly what legal authority he had over her finances. He shut me down immediately. It is handled, Lisa. Do not worry about it. That was when I created a private file on my personal laptop. Eleanor concerns. At the time, I did not realize I was building a legal case. I only knew something felt wrong. In my line of work, when something feels wrong, you pay attention, because by the time you have proof, someone has usually already been hurt. At 11:30 that morning on March 11th, after avoiding my mother's calls for 5 hours, I finally answered. I put the call on speaker so Connor could hear. I pressed record on my phone. Oregon is a one-party consent state. I only needed one person's permission to record the conversation, and I gave myself that permission. Lisa. Oh, thank God. I was getting worried. Her voice was bright and cheerful, as if she had dropped off a casserole instead of a human being. You left Grandma on my porch. Well, yes. We knew we could count on you to take care of her. I kept my voice flat. You left your 78-year-old mother-in-law on my porch in 38-degree weather without calling me and without asking me. The brightness in her voice dimmed. We had no choice, Lisa. There is always a choice. Jeffrey is on the verge of a breakdown. Her tone shifted into victim mode. I had heard it all my life. His new startup is at a critical stage. He needs quiet. He needs space to focus. And Grandma's needs are just too much. Do you know what it is like? Every night the medications. Every morning helping her dress. We are exhausted. You are exhausted. I repeated the words slowly. So you abandoned her. We did not abandon her. We brought her to you. You are a nurse. You can handle this better than we can. The call lasted 47 minutes. 47 minutes of circular logic. Gaslighting. Deflection. And my mother rewriting reality in real time. Did Grandma agree to this move? A pause. Too long. She is fine with whatever we decide. She knows we know what is best. That is not what I asked. Lisa, do not make this difficult. I ended the call and saved the recording. 47 minutes and 32 seconds of evidence. 3 minutes later the texts began. You are being selfish. Family sacrifices for family. Grandma can stay with you for a few weeks while Jeffrey gets his office space set up. A few weeks. Or longer. We will see. Do not make this difficult. You did not ask me. We are telling you. She is your grandmother too. This is what daughters do, Lisa. Jeffrey's mental health matters. Grandma understands sacrifice. Why do not you? I screenshot every message. Then Dad joined in. Your mother is right. We raised you better than this selfishness. My hands were shaking. Not from fear. From rage. Connor took my phone. Read the thread. Looked at me. You know what you have to do. I did. I typed one final message. Grandma will stay here permanently. Do not contact me about picking her up later. If you want to see her, you will ask me first. We will discuss why you thought abandonment was acceptable another time. 3 calls came in immediately. Mom. Dad. Then Jeffrey for the first time in 8 months. I declined all of them. Dad left a voicemail. I saved it without listening to all of it. The first 10 seconds were enough. Lisa Marie Brennan. You do not get to dictate terms. She's our mother. Call me back immediately. Immediately. A command. Like I was still a child. I was not. I opened my laptop and searched Oregon elder abandonment laws. Then Adult Protective Services Portland. Then how to prove financial exploitation of the elderly. I had a week of vacation saved. I submitted the request that afternoon. My supervisor approved it within an hour. She could hear in my voice that this was serious. For the next 5 days I was going to do what I do best. Assess. Document. Build a case that could not be denied. Day 1. March 11th at 8 p.m. I created a spreadsheet titled Eleanor Brennan Health Timeline. I documented everything I could observe and compared it to the last proper assessment I had made at Thanksgiving. November 23, 2023. Weight 129 pounds. Blood pressure 138/84. Controlled. A1C 7.2. Diabetes managed. Mobility. Walking with a cane. Steady. Cognition. Sharp. Fully oriented. March 11, 2024. Weight 118 pounds. 11-pound loss. Blood pressure 156/92. Uncontrolled. Mobility. Unsteady. Significant muscle weakness. Cognition. Oriented to person, place and situation, but confused about time and date. An 11-pound loss in 14 weeks for a 78-year-old diabetic with Parkinson's is not just concerning. It is dangerous. Day 2. I asked Grandma for permission to complete a full physical assessment. She agreed. What I found made my blood run cold. 3 bed sores. Stage 2. 1 on her lower back. 2 on her hips. Stage 2 pressure ulcers do not appear overnight. They take weeks of prolonged pressure. Weeks of inadequate repositioning. Weeks of neglect. There was obvious muscle atrophy in both legs. Enough that I could measure it. Her calves were about 15% smaller than they should have been for someone her size. Her fingernails were overgrown. Yellowed. Thick. No one had been helping her with basic hygiene. I documented everything with photographs. Measurements. Clinical notes. This was no longer just suspicion. This was medical evidence of prolonged abuse. Then I found the medication log. A spiral notebook stuffed into the bottom of her suitcase. My mother's handwriting. A record of Grandma's medications for the previous 3 weeks. 9 entries were marked skipped. Refused. 9 insulin doses supposedly refused by the patient. I showed Grandma the notebook. Did you refuse your insulin on these days? She looked genuinely confused. No. I always take my medicine. I never refuse. I circled the dates and asked her what she remembered. January 28th. I remember asking for it. Diane said she would bring it after dinner. I do not think she did. February 3rd. I do not remember that day at all. February 10th. Jeffrey was having people over. I stayed in my room. I do not think anyone checked on me. She had not refused care. She had been denied care. Day 3. I called Grandma's primary care physician, Dr. Raymond Peterson. I had worked with him before at community health events. He knew me as a professional. Dr. Peterson, I am calling about my grandmother Eleanor Brennan. I am her granddaughter, but I am also an RN, and I need to report some concerns. I kept my tone clinical. No accusations yet. Only facts. He pulled up her chart while we spoke. Lisa, I have not seen Eleanor in 4 months. Her last 3 appointments were cancelled. Cancelled by whom? Let me check. A pause. It says here family member stated the patient was refusing to come. My grandmother, who had never missed a doctor's appointment in her life, was suddenly refusing care. Dr. Peterson, I am looking at Eleanor right now. She has stage 2 pressure ulcers. Significant weight loss. And clear evidence of medication mismanagement. I do not believe she refused those appointments. There was silence on the line. Then he said quietly, I am making a note in her chart right now. This is very concerning. I am documenting everything I told him. I may need those records for a formal report. You will have them. After the call I opened a new document. Evidence log. Eleanor Brennan. By the end of that night it was 14 pages long with 23 photographic exhibits, and a 6-month timeline mapping her health decline to the period she lived under my parents' care. 47 pieces of evidence. Catalogued. Cross-referenced. Organized. Then I opened a new browser tab, and searched how to file an elder abuse report with Adult Protective Services in Oregon. March 16, 10:30 p.m. I stared at the completed file for a long time. This was no longer a family disagreement. This was a legal case. Tomorrow I was going to cross a line most people never cross. I was going to report my own parents to the state. But I am a nurse. I took an oath. And that oath does not include an exception for family. The bank statements told a story my parents never wanted read. On March 17th, after 5 days of proper medication and regular meals, Grandma's mind was already sharper. Funny how that happens when someone is actually cared for. Grandma, can we look at your bank account together? I need to understand where your money went. Is that okay? She nodded right away. Please. I want to know everything. She logged in and I started downloading statements. 18 months worth. Once I knew what I was looking for, the pattern was obvious. Jeffrey Brennan. $1,200. Repeated monthly. 6 times. That was the money Grandma had mentioned. $7,200 total. But there was more. Every month there was a charge listed as home care supplies. $850. I called the medical supply company listed on the statement. Hello. I am calling about account holder Eleanor Brennan. Can you tell me what supplies were purchased in the last year? The representative checked. I am not showing any Eleanor Brennan in our system. Can you search by account number? I read off the number. That account was closed in 2019. The charges were fake. $5,100 over 6 months billed to a defunct account, and still somehow showing up on Grandma's bank statements. Then I found the biggest one. December 15, 2023. Withdrawal $8,500. Memo. Eleanor Brennan gift to Jeffrey. Business investment. I turned to Grandma and kept my voice gentle. Do you remember giving Jeffrey $8,500 in December? Her face crumpled. I remember signing something. Gerald said it was for my care. He said I was agreeing to something. I do not know. There were so many papers. I pulled up old signatures from her checks and scanned identification forms from earlier years. Then I compared them to the signature on the December 15th transfer form. They did not match. Grandma's real signature was neat. Connected. Confident. The E in Eleanor had strong loops. The slant was consistent. The signature on the transfer form was shaky. Broken. Disconnected. And whoever forged it had misspelled her own last name. Brennan instead of Brennan. I photographed everything and added the comparisons to my evidence log. Then I found something even worse in her suitcase. A power of attorney document dated November 3, 2023. I showed it to Grandma. She stared at it and said one sentence. I have never seen this before in my life. Your signature is at the bottom, I told her. That is not my signature. She was right. Same shaky hand. Same misspelling. Brennan. They had forged a power of attorney to gain control over her money. This was no longer neglect. This was felony-level fraud. But I still needed to know where the money had gone. Grandma, can I check your email? I want to see if there are accounts we do not know about. She handed me her phone. Please. I want to know everything. I searched her inbox for account notices and found one dated November 8, 2023. Welcome to Venmo. Grandma, do you know what Venmo is? No. I have never heard of it. Someone had created a Venmo account in her name using her email address. I reset the password and accessed the account. That was how the scam worked. Money left her bank account. It went into a Venmo account made to look like it belonged to her. Then Jeffrey transferred it out to himself. On paper it looked as if Grandma had been voluntarily sending him money. In reality, she did not even know the platform existed. The transaction history loaded. November through February. 6 transfers of $1,200 each to J. Brennan, CEO. Then Jeffrey transferred it right back out. $600 to DraftKings. $400 to Coinbase. $200 to rent payment Gerald Diane. He was using Grandma's money to gamble. To buy cryptocurrency. And to help pay my parents' rent. They were not just enabling him. They were profiting from it. I clicked on Jeffrey's Venmo profile. His bio read entrepreneur, crypto investor, future Forbes 30 under 30. His latest post was from March 10th. One day before the Porch dump. A photo of brand new sneakers. Caption. Treat yourself. The price tag reflected in the mirror said $385. He spent $385 on shoes while my grandmother was being underfed and undermedicated. I saved everything. Screenshots. PDFs, transaction histories. Then I did the math. Grandma had entered my parents' home in 2018 with about $120,000. Now she had $38,000 left. $82,000 was gone. Some of that was legitimate. Actual medications. Co-pays. Real living expenses over 6 years. But I could document at least $22,500 in direct fraud. Jeffrey's Venmo transfers. $7,200. The forged December gift. $8,500. Fake home care supply charges. $5,100. Other suspicious withdrawals. $1,700. And that was only what I could prove from 18 months of statements. I had no way of knowing how much had disappeared in the 4.5 years before I started paying attention. Then I went back through the family group chat my mother had started months earlier for family coordination. Once I looked with new eyes, the messages were disgusting. November 18, 2023. Eleanor is becoming dead weight. Jeffrey needs her room for his new venture. December 2, 2023. We have done our time caring for her. It will be Lisa's turn eventually. January 25, 2024. Can you tell Grandma to be quieter in the mornings? I have investor calls at 9. February 14, 2024. Maybe we should look into nursing homes. Oh wait. Eleanor's money is depleted. Never mind. March 10, 2024 at 11:52 p.m. Tomorrow morning. Early. Before Lisa wakes up. 23 incriminating texts. Saved. Backed up. Cross-referenced with bank records and medical evidence. They had built the entire wall of evidence themselves, one message at a time. Then my phone buzzed. Mom? It has been a week, Lisa. We would like to visit Grandma this Sunday at 2 p.m. See you then. It was not a question. It was a demand. I did not respond. Instead, I opened one more browser tab. Adult Protective Services Oregon. Report elder abuse. It was time. March 18 at 9:15 a.m. I dialed the number. A woman answered. Adult Protective Services intake line. How can I help you? I need to report elder abuse and financial exploitation. Are you the alleged victim? No. I am the granddaughter. I am also a registered nurse, which makes me a mandatory reporter. Her tone changed immediately. Professional. Focused. I am going to gather some information. This may take 30 to 40 minutes. I have time. I gave her everything. Timeline. Medical evidence. Financial evidence. Photographs. Names. Dates. Amounts. Locations. The call lasted 38 minutes and 14 seconds. At the end she said, Miss Brennan, based on what you described, this case will be prioritized as high risk. You should expect contact from an investigator within 72 hours. What happens then? An investigator will interview the alleged victim and review the evidence. If the allegations are substantiated, we may coordinate with law enforcement and potentially the district attorney's office. So this could become criminal. Yes. What you described, especially the financial exploitation and forged documents, may constitute criminal elder abuse under Oregon law. She gave me a case number. I wrote it down and filed it with the rest of my evidence. Then I sat still for a minute because I had just done something irreversible. I had reported my own parents to the state. Part of me, the part raised to believe family loyalty mattered above all else, felt like I had betrayed them. But the nurse in me knew the truth. I had done exactly what I was trained to do. Protect the patient. Even when the patient is family. Even when the abusers are family too. 68 hours later there was a knock at my door. March 20th, 10 a.m. The woman on the porch was in her mid-40s. Business casual. Badge at her belt. Lisa Brennan. Yes. I am Janet Kowalski with Adult Protective Services. I let her in. I introduced her to Grandma, who was sitting in the living room doing a crossword puzzle. Connor had taken the day off so he could be there as a witness. Janet spent 90 minutes interviewing Grandma. I stayed in the room for support, but I did not speak unless asked. Eleanor, can you tell me about the morning of March 11th? Grandma's voice was quiet. I woke up around 5. Diane came into my room and said, get dressed. We are going to Lisa's. I thought we were visiting for the day. Did you know you were moving out? No. I did not know until we arrived and Gerald left my suitcases. Then they drove away and I realized they were not coming back. How did that make you feel? Grandma's eyes filled. Like I was trash they were throwing out. She cried 4 times during that interview. Each time Janet waited. Handed her tissues. Asked gently if she wanted a break. Did you ever give Jeffrey Brennan permission to access your bank accounts? I do not remember. Gerald said Jeffrey needed help. I remember signing things he put in front of me. He said they were for my medical care. Did you understand what you were signing? No. Janet photographed the healing bed sores. Took updated vital signs. Made notes in her tablet. Before she left she pulled the power of attorney from my evidence packet and studied it through a magnifying glass. Then she looked at me. This is fraudulent. I am going to request a forensic document review. Miss Brennan, this investigation has just escalated to potential felony level. 2 days later another expert arrived. Dr. Helen Chu. Geriatric specialist. 30 years in elder care. Expert witness in dozens of elder abuse cases. She completed a full medical assessment of Grandma. 4 hours of examination. Cognitive testing. Record review. Her written report was 14 pages long. The conclusions were devastating. Patient exhibits clear signs of prolonged neglect. The bed sores are consistent with 6 to 8 weeks of immobility and inadequate repositioning. This meets the clinical definition of criminal neglect. Medication mismanagement appears deliberate. The pattern of underdosing combined with weight loss and missed medical appointments suggests systematic deprivation of care to reduce costs. Cognitive assessment score 28 out of 30. Patient demonstrates capacity to make her own decisions. Any documents signed without full explanation or under coercion are voidable. In my professional opinion, Eleanor Brennan was being systematically abused by family members to fund other financial priorities while maintaining minimal care standards. This is one of the clearest cases of coordinated elder abuse I have evaluated. On March 25 I received a certified letter from Adult Protective Services. Findings substantiated. 3 allegations investigated. 3 substantiated. Neglect substantiated. Financial exploitation substantiated. Abandonment substantiated. Recommended actions. Referral to the District Attorney's Elder Abuse Unit. Emergency Protective Order. Support for Guardianship Petition. Lisa Brennan Petitioner. The letter was 5 pages long and completely unambiguous. The state had formally determined that my parents had abused my grandmother. That same evening at 6:45 p.m., my doorbell rang. I checked the camera. Mom and Dad. Dad was carrying a folder. They had come to talk about Grandma's will. I did not open the door immediately. I set my phone to record audio. Then I let them in. Connor stood behind me. Silent. Watchful. Dad got straight to it. We need to discuss Eleanor's estate planning. No, we do not. Mom's face was streaked with tears. Lisa, please. We need to be reasonable. Reasonable. I kept my voice cold. You abandoned her on my porch. I do not think you understand what reasonable means. Dad opened his folder. We consulted an attorney. Eleanor needs to update her will. Given Jeffrey's business needs and our years of care, her estate is no longer your concern. I looked at them. Excuse me. Adult Protective Services investigated. All 3 allegations were substantiated. You are both named as perpetrators of elder abuse. The room went silent. Then Dad exploded. You reported us to the government. I reported elder abuse. The government agreed with me. This is insane. Mom sounded shrill. We gave her a home. You gave her bed sores and stole her money. We did not steal anything. Those were gifts. She agreed. I pulled out my phone and read from my notes. Eleanor Brennan has Parkinson's disease and diabetes. You undermedicated her to save $40 a month. You falsified medication logs. You forged her signature on financial documents and misspelled her name while doing it. Her consent was not just coerced. It was fabricated. Dad went red. You have no idea what you are talking about. I am a registered nurse. Documentation is literally my profession. Mom began sobbing. This will destroy us, Lisa. Our reputation at church. Gerald's retirement job. Jeffrey's future. If this gets out, everything is over. You should have thought about that before you turned your mother into a budget item. We were desperate. Her voice cracked. Jeffrey's creditors were calling. He owed dangerous people money. We were trying to protect him. So you sacrificed Grandma to do it. They stayed 23 minutes. 23 minutes of denial. Anger. Bargaining. Self-pity. Not once did they apologize. Not once did they ask how Grandma was doing. Finally Connor spoke. You need to leave. Dad pointed at me. This is not over. You are right, I said. It is not. You are both receiving a cease and desist from my attorney. Stay away from Grandma. Stay away from my house. Mom broke down all over again. Please, Lisa. Your father could lose his job. I could lose my church position. Everyone will know. Good? I looked directly at her. They should know who you really are. I closed the door and locked it. Mom cried on my porch for 22 minutes. I know because the camera recorded every second. 3 days later my attorney called. Olivia Bradford. Recommended by APS. 15 years in elder law. She reviewed my evidence on March 28th. It took her 40 minutes. When she looked up she smiled. Lisa, you have already done most of my work for me. This is airtight. We discussed strategy. 4 legal actions. Emergency guardianship, naming me as legal guardian. Revocation of the fraudulent power of attorney. A no-contact order. A civil recovery action for stolen funds. What about criminal charges, I asked. That depends on the district attorney. But with this documentation, and the APS findings, I would be shocked if they did not consider prosecution. How long will all of this take? The guardianship hearing can happen within 2 weeks. The rest could take months or years. But the important part is this. You are in control now. They are not. On April 1st a process server delivered the cease and desist letter to my parents' house at 10 a.m. The letter was 5 pages long. Clear legal language. Immediate cessation of all contact with Eleanor Brennan. Demand for a full accounting of finances. Notice of pending guardianship. Notice of potential criminal exposure. 15-day deadline to respond. 4.5 hours after they were served, my parents appeared at my house. I watched them on the doorbell camera, and did not open the door right away. Mom was sobbing. Dad was pounding and yelling. Lisa. We need to talk. This is family. I opened the door with the chain still engaged. You need to leave. You are violating the cease and desist. We do not care about the damn letter, Dad shouted. You cannot do this to us. I did not do anything to you. I protected Grandma. We are her family. You lost that privilege when you dosed her with half her medication to save money. Dad yanked out his checkbook. Pen already in hand. Fine. What do you want? We will repay whatever you think we owe. This is not about money. Everything is about money, Lisa. We can write the check right now. You left her on my porch in freezing weather. You forged legal documents. You lied to doctors. A check does not erase that. Mom clutched the door frame. We were desperate. Jeffrey's life was in danger. Jeffrey is a 29-year-old gambling addict. Grandma is a 78-year-old diabetic you systematically neglected. Those are not equal problems. Connor stepped beside me. She lost 11 pounds under your care. That is not desperation. That is someone dying slowly. Dad's voice dropped. If you do not drop this, you will regret it. Your lawyer should have told you to stop showing up at my house. I closed the door and locked it. Mom screamed. Dad kept pacing. They remained on the porch another 22 minutes. That was the last time I saw them in person for more than a year. But Jeffrey still had one more call to make. On March 25th at 7:20 p.m. my phone rang. Jeffrey. First call in 9 months. I answered. Put him on speaker. Hit record. You ruined everything. That was how he began. Not hello. Not how are you. Just rage. I was about to close an investor, he yelled. I had someone ready to put real money into my company. Now Mom and Dad are freaking out. APS is asking questions. This is all your fault. I waited until he finished. Are you done? You are so self-righteous. Grandma was fine. She had free housing. Free food. She had bed sores and underdosed medication. Those were accidents. For 6 weeks straight. That is not an accident, Jeffrey. That is neglect. You always thought you were better than me. No. I just thought people should be cared for instead of used. When Grandma dies and you get nothing from her, will do not come crying to me. Then he hung up. I saved the recording. 11 minutes and 38 seconds of self-incrimination. Threats. Motive. Entitlement. 3 days later Olivia called again. Lisa, I found something. What? Eleanor's will from 2017. The last valid version. It was never changed. Okay. You are the primary beneficiary. I sat down. What? Jeffrey gets 20%. You get 80%. There is a reasoning clause. She writes that she leaves the majority to her granddaughter Lisa, who has shown consistent care and devotion, and will use the money wisely and with kindness. My parents knew this. Oh, they knew. I found emails between your father and 3 estate attorneys over the last 2 years. He was looking for someone who would help him get Eleanor to change it. That is why they forged the power of attorney. Exactly. They could not get her to change the will, so they started draining the accounts before she died. I felt sick. Olivia, I do not want the money. There was a pause. What do you mean? I did not do any of this for inheritance. I did it to protect her. I want to create a trust for Grandma's care, and when she is gone whatever remains should go to charity. Another pause. Then Olivia said softly. You are serious. Completely. That is extraordinary, Lisa. Most families would fight over this. I am not most families. On April 10th, with Grandma's full consent, we created the Eleanor Brennan Irrevocable Elder Care Trust. All $38,000 of her remaining assets were placed into trust. I was named trustee, not beneficiary. The money could only be used for Grandma's medical care, housing and quality of life. When she passed away, anything left would be donated to the Oregon Elder Abuse Prevention Coalition. Joel, Diane and Jeffrey Brennan were explicitly barred from making any claim against the trust now or ever. The court approved it. Olivia also filed for a permanent restraining order. Hearing date April 25th. Multnomah County Courthouse. April 25th, 9 a.m. Judge Patricia Morrison presiding. 18 years on the bench. Family court specialist. My parents had to attend. Jeffrey too. They sat on one side of the courtroom. I sat on the other with Grandma, at her own request, and Connor beside us. Judge Morrison read the file in silence for 7 minutes. Then she looked up. I have reviewed the APS report. Dr. Chu's medical assessment. The financial records. The recordings. I have also reviewed your response brief. Would anyone like to add anything before I rule? Dad's attorney stood. Your Honor, my clients acknowledge there were miscommunications regarding Eleanor's care. However, they maintain they acted in what they believed were her best interests. Miscommunications. The judge repeated the word like it offended her. She looked at my father. Mr. Brennan, you have a registered nurse for a daughter. Did you at any point consult her regarding your mother's medical care? We handled it ourselves. You handled it by underdosing a diabetic to save $40 a month. You handled it by allowing bed sores to develop over 6 to 8 weeks. You handled it by forging her signature on financial documents. Dad said nothing. The judge turned to my mother. Mrs. Brennan, you work at a church. Do you understand the meaning of bearing false witness? Yes, Your Honor. You falsified medication logs and claimed Eleanor refused care when she did not. That is bearing false witness, if you needed the theological version of legal fraud. Then she turned to Jeffrey. Mr. Brennan, what do you do for a living? I am an entrepreneur, Your Honor. What does your company do? A long pause. We are in development. So you do not currently generate revenue? Not yet. Yet you spent $385 on sneakers one day before your grandmother was abandoned on your sister's porch. Money that came from your grandmother's accounts. Does that sound like discipline to you? Jeffrey said nothing. Judge Morrison looked down at her notes, and when she spoke again her voice was cold steel. I have served in family court for 18 years. I have seen neglect. I have seen exploitation. I have seen families destroy themselves over money. This case is worse than most. This is calculated cruelty disguised as duty. Mr. and Mrs. Brennan, you did not simply neglect your mother. You systematically exploited her for financial gain, while shifting the burden of her care onto your daughter. You undermedicated a diabetic to reduce costs. You falsified medical records. You forged legal documents. You abandoned an elderly woman in near-freezing weather rather than have an honest conversation about resources. Mr. Brennan, she said, turning to Jeffrey. You enriched yourself through your grandmother's diminished position while contributing nothing to her care. Then she looked at me. And Lisa Brennan. You did what they should have done. You protected someone who could not protect herself. You documented abuse with professional precision and created a trust that puts your grandmother's welfare ahead of personal gain. You are a credit to your profession and a model of what family responsibility should be. I felt Connor squeeze my hand. The ruling is as follows. Permanent restraining order granted. Gerald Brennan, Diane Brennan, and Jeffrey Brennan are barred from all contact with Eleanor Brennan. Minimum distance 500 feet. Full guardianship granted to Lisa Brennan. Gerald, Diane, and Jeffrey Brennan are permanently barred from any claim against Eleanor Brennan's estate, current or future. This matter is referred to the District Attorney's Office for Criminal Prosecution review. We are adjourned. The gavel came down. Mom sobbed openly. Dad sat rigid and stone-faced. Jeffrey stared at me with pure hatred. As we walked out, he hissed under his breath. You will regret this. I did not answer. I held Grandma's hand and kept walking as if he did not exist. Because to me he did not. Not anymore. 30 days later I got a call from a woman who used to volunteer with my mother at church. She whispered into the phone. Lisa, I thought you should know. Your parents resigned from everything. People found out. The pastor asked them to step down. A week later my father retired early from his part-time position at the school district. Officially it was voluntary. Unofficially there had been questions. Parents do not like learning the custodian was investigated for elder abuse. On June 3, 2024, Jeffrey's bankruptcy filing appeared in public records. Total debt $67,000. Total assets $1,200. He had lost everything. And for once my parents could not save him. They had spent their own savings fighting the APS case. Dad's early retirement triggered penalties. They had to move out of their house and into a smaller rental on the other side of town. It was not my problem. Grandma, on the other hand, was thriving. 79 years old. Weight back up to 126 pounds. A1C down to 6.8. Diabetes controlled. Physical therapy 3 times a week. Parkinson's tremor stable with proper medication. She started watercolor classes at the senior center. Made 4 new friends. Sold one of her paintings at a local art fair for $85 and was thrilled about it. Every Thursday we had family game night. Grandma, Connor, me. Sometimes the neighbor joined us. Grandma laughed again. Told jokes again. Lived without apology again. The frightened woman from the porch was gone. Then 1 year passed. March 11, 2025. The 1-year anniversary. At 5:30 in the morning my Ring camera sent an alert. My heart stopped. I grabbed my phone and opened the feed. A car was in the driveway. My mother stepped out alone carrying something. She walked slowly to the porch and placed down a greeting card. Then she looked up at the camera. She knew I was watching. She mouthed 2 words. I am sorry. Then she got back in the car and left. I waited an hour before going outside. The card was a Hallmark sympathy-style card. Inside she had written, Lisa, it has been a year. We have lost everything. Our reputation. Our church family. Jeffrey had to file bankruptcy. Gerald had to retire early. We know we cannot undo what we did. We are asking if we can see Mom just once. We miss her. Please. Diane. I brought the card inside and showed it to Grandma. She read it in silence. Then she looked at me. What do you think I should do, sweetheart? I sat beside her. What do you want to do? She looked down at the card again. They miss me now. When I had money. When I was useful. They wanted me gone. Now that I am doing well without them, they want back in. She handed the card back. What does that tell you about why they are really here? I called Olivia. Is there any legal reason my parents would suddenly want contact with Grandma? She did some digging and called back. Turns out Jeffrey's creditors had gone after the co-signers on his loans. Your parents. They are facing a $34,000 judgment. Their savings are already depleted and they cannot cover it. A week later my cousin texted me. Weird question. Your mom called asking whether Grandma came into any money lately, or if Lisa is hiding assets. Thought you should know. That answered everything. They were not asking to see Grandma because they missed her. They were broke. They were fishing. I told Grandma the truth. Her expression hardened in a way I had never seen before. I want to write them a letter, she said. Will you help me? April 15, 2025. Grandma dictated. I typed. Gerald and Diane. I received your card. You say you have lost everything. Let me tell you what I lost when I lived with you. I lost 11 pounds because meals were regular and insufficient. I lost my mobility because physical therapy was considered too expensive. I lost my dignity when you calculated my value like a utility bill. I lost my safety when you left me on a porch in freezing weather because your son needed my room. You say you lost your reputation. I almost lost my life. There is a difference. You may be able to rebuild a reputation by changing your behavior. I cannot rebuild the year of my life that was taken through neglect. Lisa gave me something you never gave me. She gave me a choice. She asked what I wanted. You only told me what I cost. I do not forgive you. Forgiveness is for mistakes. What you did was calculated. The restraining order remains. Do not contact me again. Eleanor Brennan. We sent it by certified mail. They received it on April 18th. That evening a blocked number called my phone. I let it go to voicemail. It was my mother sobbing. You turned her against us. You poisoned her mind. I will never forgive you for this. I deleted the message before it finished and blocked the number. That chapter was closed. March 11th, 2026. 2-year anniversary. Jeffrey now worked at a Target distribution center earning $16.50 an hour. His social media was gone. Last I heard he was dating someone new and had never told her what he had done. Gerald and Diane lived in a small rental for $1,200 a month. Dad did part-time custodial work for a different school district. Mom no longer volunteered anywhere. No organization wanted her once they searched her name. They still sent a Christmas card every year. I returned each one unopened. Eleanor turned 79 last month. 14 people came to her birthday party at the senior center. She is in an advanced watercolor class now. She loves murder mystery podcasts. She rates Connor's jokes 3 out of 10 on a good day. Connor and I built a wheelchair-accessible garden in the backyard, and she tends it every morning when the weather is nice. She lives with us permanently now. First floor bedroom. 12 by 14. Window facing the garden. This morning at exactly 5:36 a.m., the same time they abandoned her 2 years ago, I checked my doorbell camera. The porch was empty. No suitcases. No shivering elderly woman left like trash. At 8 a.m. the doorbell rang. It was the mail carrier. A package for Grandma. Art supplies. New brushes. An alizarin crimson paint set. Her favorite. People ask me sometimes whether I regret it. Reporting my parents. Tearing the family apart. This is what I tell them. They tore the family apart when they chose Jeffrey's comfort over Grandma's safety. When they chose money over her health. When they chose reputation over decency. I did not tear anything apart. I simply refused to help them hide what they had done. Grandma was never a burden. She's a 79-year-old woman who loves watercolors and podcasts and terrible jokes. She's a person. The burden was their cruelty. And I am not carrying that anymore. Some burdens teach you what matters. Some people never learn. The people who do learn get to see the ones they protected bloom. If you believe no one should ever be abandoned by the people meant to protect them, subscribe right now and comment "I stand with Eleanor" so this story reaches more people and reminds every victim that silence protects abusers, not families.